Look closely at any city. You are looking at a physical manifestation of what we think a human being is. Every culture operates on a core set of assumptions about human nature. If a society believes people are inherently competitive and entirely separate from the natural world, it will inevitably construct institutions, economies, and legal systems that require and reward those exact behaviors. That operating system works until it doesn't. Right now, we are facing ecological exhaustion, failing institutions, and a pervasive global crisis of meaning. This is a structural failure. We are struggling because the specific ideal that built the modern world has expired. The exact values and drives that successfully pulled humanity out of the agrarian age and built this staggering global infrastructure are now the very forces threatening to pull it all down. We are living inside the architecture of an outdated mind. To survive what comes next, we have to understand how these societal ideals are born, how they peak, and why they inevitably fall apart. This chart illustrates what sociologists call the lead-lag phenomenon. A new image of humanity emerges first. It acts as a magnetic pull, an anticipatory blueprint that provides direction, drawing the rest of society and culture up behind it. For the last few centuries, the curve pulling us forward has been economic man. This is a vision of the human being as a hyper-rational, secular mechanism whose primary purpose is to conquer nature to fuel material progress. The roots of this operating system solidified in the 19th century. Through the lens of early objective science and evolutionary theory, we began to view ourselves as biological machines, driven primarily by instinct, competition, and the struggle for survival. Eventually, society enters a congruence phase. The physical environment successfully adapts to match that underlying psychological ideal. People become highly specialized cogs in a larger industrial machine, triggering massive leaps in technological and material output. By the mid-20th century, this alignment reached its zenith. We built a civilization characterized by immense energy utilization, sprawling commercial networks, and a celebrated abundance of consumer goods. The economic man paradigm did exactly what it was designed to do. It built the modern world. But by becoming the unquestioned dominant lens through which we measure all human value, it engineered its own systemic collapse. We are now in the lag phase. The momentum of our physical and technological reality drastically overshoots the psychological premise that originally launched it. The lived environment separates from the guiding ideal, opening up a dangerous gap. You can see this gap in the physical consequences of our infrastructure. We have engineered a strange poverty of abundance, where unchecked industrial growth and infinite consumption demands are colliding directly with a finite, fragile ecosystem. This is the fundamental anomaly of the late industrial state. The very things we are optimizing for maximum profit, extreme division of labor, and ruthless mechanization are now actively counteracting basic human needs for meaning, connection, and a habitable planet. Our reflex is to try and fix this by doubling down. We attempt to force intensely complex modern social problems back into the obsolete economic mold, relying on technocratic control and tighter regulations to manage the fallout. But extending that trajectory is no longer physically or psychologically viable. You cannot patch an operating system that is inherently incompatible with the hardware. It has to be replaced. To navigate a crisis this deep, we have to look at the human dimensions that the industrial era purposely filtered out: our biology, our sense of purpose, and our inner lives. This shift leads us toward a new blueprint, an evolutionary transformationalist image of humankind. The first parameter of this blueprint is an ecological ethic. Instead of viewing ourselves as isolated masters meant to extract resources from a dead world, we have to recognize ourselves as deeply interdependent elements of a single living biological system. The second is a self-realization ethic. This shifts the ultimate goal of human existence away from the accumulation of material goods and focuses instead on multidimensional personal and social growth. The third parameter draws on the perennial philosophy. It is the recognition that human beings possess a transpersonal spiritual dimension, an inner life and a capacity for awareness that cannot be quantified by mechanistic science alone. The timeline for this transition is remarkably short. International leadership at the highest levels has repeatedly warned that we have a rapidly closing window to forge a global partnership before these intertwined crises exceed our capacity to control them. By aligning these three ethics, we create a lens for making policy decisions where individual growth and systemic health are no longer in competition, which leaves a critical question. How does an entire global civilization actually install a new image of man without resorting to top-down authoritarian manipulation? Shifting a civilization's foundational paradigm is not an act of will. Forcing an image through top-down mandates often creates a backlash where the psyche resists the very change it needs. The true mechanism for change is far more organic. There is an old psychological maxim, who imagines can. Simply by deeply believing in and vividly envisioning this holistic image of ourselves, society begins to naturally alter its own trajectory, pulling the physical reality up to meet the new ideal. The next era emerges when we collectively decide to believe in a different version of ourselves. It is a transformation of the heart that must precede every new machine and every new law.